Okay, hey, it's been a long time now since I've been doing podcasts on movies and geek stuff and everything. Been focusing on my own show, Liverpool Community Podcast here at Big Condo Academy. But I gotta say, I do kind of like miss, kind of like talking about the movies because really, pretty much when we used to focus on new movies coming out, especially superhero movies, Marvel and DC. And we got a new set of movies coming out this year in 2023, starting with Marvel and then Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now, this is one of the movies I've been looking forward to for some time because it's starring my good man Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. So it's like Marvel giving us a new big bad from Thanos, to Kang. Now, as a Marvel fan for ages, as only some of you are, Kang is indeed a great big bad to focus on. And, Jonathan Majors was an interesting choice, which I will cover, and everything else like that. But as well as Ant-Man being his protagonist. So pretty much it's going to be all spoiler review because I've been watching, like you have been watching, all the pundits hate on this movie for no good reason. The reason why I say no good reason is because when you hear their reasoning for why they hate on the movie, it's not really constructive. It's not really a constructive criticism review, which is why you have an audience meter which is double the positive reaction than the so-called critic review. And then they mix it up. They say that the critics like it more than the audience do. Even when you listen to some of your favorite American, podcasters, who keep talking about how they don't like this, but they like the movie. Now, that's really kind of like one of those backslaps, like, hey, I like you, but hate you at the same time. Why not just like on the movie? Why not just deal with the positivity of the movie? A lot of people say it's superhero fatigue, but it's not. It's like, what Marvel does best, DC hasn't had the chance to do as of yet, is that they keep changing it up. They never give us the same thing twice. And so now that the heroes that we have enjoyed for the past 10 years are now moving on, we have to get used to new sets of heroes, and sometimes that's hard. So even though we're looking at Ant-Man that we know of, and we've enjoyed the first movie, and some like the second movie as well, people are hating on the third movie, and not recognizing the fact that like, this is still a lovable character, and they're talking about who's missing, like Luis and all this other kind of stuff, but they're not talking about who we're gaining, like Cassie. Or Kang. And what I think that the movie did was it split nicely amongst its family group, as opposed to people saying, hey, isn't it supposed to be an Ant-Man movie? It's an Ant-Man and Wasp movie. And as Ant-Man and the Wasp, they are a family, and that's what they are giving us. They are giving us the older generation of Hank and Janet, and then they're giving us a new generation in Cassie. So I'm going to break the film down, and I'm going to do it from memory because I enjoyed it that much and everything else like that, and I'm going to give you my response. So this is my all spoiler view of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now, from the beginning, Scott walking down the street to the tune of Welcome Back, Kotter. First of all, again, I'm a 70s kid, so as a 70s kid, I, of course, enjoyed, hearing Welcome Back, Kotter. So in that fashion is with Scott walking down the street, looking at people, blah, 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 and people looking at him and everything. This is kind of like his life. He doesn't have to really do too much adventuring anymore. He's wrote a book. Hope is taking over her father's company. And she's doing a lot of humanitarian work and everything, and in that aspect is that Scott is living the life. He's willing to be the house husband, the house dad, and everything, and really just loving the fact that people love him. I mean, I love that scene where he's reading from his book, looking out for the little guy and everything, and to a bunch of kids and everything, and with his smarmy look and everything. That's really all funny. He goes into the shop, and the guy who is kind of like the Stan Lee role, and everything. He's like, "Hey, it's good to see you there, Spider-Man." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, cool, whatever, I'll take it." Or seeing the kid with the Ant-Man on his bag and stuff. So, like, all of that is really good. It's a good setup for the world of Ant-Man as he exists now. But then he gets a phone call that, Cassie has been put in jail because she is a little protester. She's a little rebel. Basically, what she does is she shrinks a police car, because the police are like attacking people who are, in what do they call it, housing and stuff like that. It's like something that, she's on the side of the people pretty much and everything. And Scott's really just upset that they could have, found her pin particles and all of that. But he doesn't realize as of yet that she actually has made herself a suit, or that Hank has helped her make a suit. He doesn't realize how much her and Hank have been working together, which is kind of like a nice touch, like at their little family dinner kind of thing. She's really taken to Hank and everything, and she's a very smart, intelligent little girl. She built this little device that allows her to explore the quantum realm, and so Hank knows about it, and even Hope knows about it, but Janet doesn't, and Scott doesn't. So Janet's like, wait a minute, hold on. What do you mean you've been dealing with the quantum realm? Now, this is one of the first things that people get confused. The quantum realm, as Janet says, is worlds and within worlds. We're talking about the subatomic universe. It's vast. So people are saying because Scott went into the quantum realm and he went through a time vortex and disappeared for what he thought was 5 hours, which was actually 5 years, how come Janet is aged at regular time in 30 years? It's because she went to a different area called subatomica. If you listen to the script written by Jeff Lovelace, which I think is fantastic, listen. Don't just watch the visuals. You need to listen. And this is well-written story. He takes care of everything. So she was in a different area of the quantum realm. Not all of it is what they call time dilation. Also, when the Avengers went into the quantum realm, and they were supposed to go into the quantum realm, as Renslayer says, they went again through different areas, right, to travel through time. So it's like going through different tunnels, right, like a catacombs. Again, that's not where the family went to this time. They went specifically straight down into subatomica. Now, because this is spoilers, what had happened is that when she turned on the machine, MODOK sees the signal, snatches on the signal, and is able to snatch the family, and everything. So what had happened there is the fact that so that's how they got pulled in. It wasn't that she turned on the machine and she sent the family to the quantum realm. He snatched them when the machine turned on. Again, if you listen, you would have heard that. Now, and he pulled them specifically into subatomica, which means they didn't have to go traveling through time. They didn't have to go through any vortex holes and everything, all that kind of stuff. They specifically went to another universe. And in this other universe, where even though the creatures look human, they are not. So they know nothing of Earth. They know nothing of our customs or anything like that. Now, what we actually see is when Hank and Cassie enter subatomica, and they meet the rebels. This is when we're introduced to Quezi, played by that guy from The Good Place. Sorry, I can't remember his name, his three-man name. So Quezi, who we had like false information, we were told that he might be Quasar. See how you get confused? He's a telepath. So he had telepathic powers and everything like that, so he could read minds and stuff. Now, basically, there's another creature played by the voice of David Dalmatian. So even though we don't get David Dalmatian physically in the film, we get him vocally in the film. So it's a way of, oh man, I wish we're Luis and the gang. And so there he is. And he's playing this blob character whose ooze allows people to communicate with one another. So even in Subatomica, their language is all kind of like the language of the ooze. So that's why we get this freaky scene where Cassie's like, drink me and all that kind of stuff. And people saying this is like Alice in Wonderland. Listen, it's just an ingenious way of allowing the concept of people who are not earthlings to talk like earthlings. You know, it's a trope, right? So again, Jeff Lovelace did a good job with that. So you got a guy going, hey, how many holes you got? He's got 7 holes. Now this was the thing that made me curious. Wait a minute, 7 holes. I'm starting to think about this. How do I got 7 holes? That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, 6. And I actually 7 holes doesn't add up, but you know. That's something that was funny. I had to think about for a second. They wanted to take me out of the movie and stuff. But so anyway, so now this is how they're able to communicate, because when we get Hank, Hope, and Janet going to a bar like a cantina, everywhere has to have a Star Wars cantina. I mean, we'll never get away from that trope, will we? And this is where they say this is like Star Wars. Well, obviously, people have to eat and drink or gather, you know, no matter what society you're in. So we're always going to have the concept of the pub or cantina. So, like, anyway, so that's where they drink the ooze and stuff like that, and they're able to understand everyone. So we're split. The family is split, and everything. So we're following 2 different stories. So obviously, Janet knows where she is. She's still kind of keeping it close to the vest about what she had done while in the quantum realm. And now, I skipped over it, but I'll go back to it now, where is that we do see a pre-scene where Janet encounters Kang. So that way we get Kang at the beginning in the movie, so that way we don't have to say, where's Jonathan Majors, yeah? So his ship had crash landed into Subatomica while Janet was down there. And she goes and she gets attacked and everything, and he saves her, you know, and everything. So in saving her, then he's like, help me. And she's like, he's another humanoid and stuff like that. So like, I'll help him. And so his ship is, you know, needs repairs. And so they need to figure out how to fix his drive so that way he can get out of there. So in the time that they're down there, they become close. She tells him a story about leaving her daughter behind. Like, it's an interesting way of approach about it, because he tells her about how, like, she left her at the door, like, she lied to her. The last thing she did was lie to her and everything. And she called it, like, jelly bean and stuff like that. You know, so when he actually meets the grown-up Hope, because his whole thing was, I'm going to get you your daughter back. I'm going to get you to go back to that same time, because that's his ability is time. So when he sees her, that's why his first thing is, hello, jelly bean, which was interesting. How he said it, the sinister way he said it, you know, his subtle way of talking, or his regal way of talking, let's put it that way. So anyway, you know, so then we come back into, she's like, We got to get out of here. She wants to probably avoid him as much as possible and get her family out of Subatomica and everything. And like, so they put on like, the clothes. They, are traveling, and they meet up with again another band of creatures and stuff like that. And to show that Janet is like a known kind of entity down here. So Hank is just kind of like, oh, she's just powerful. She's just, and everything and stuff like that. So when they end up in the cantina, she's looking for someone, Krylar, who's played by Bill Murray. Now, the thing about it is people talking about this Bill Murray thing, like, why did you waste Bill Murray? I think Bill Murray was really playing like the Jeff Goldblum scene, the Grandmaster in Ragnarok. It's kind of like, let's just have like a, known like comedic actor, somewhat introduce us to this place or whatever and everything, or to Janet's past. And, it was interesting to go the route of the fact that Janet had sex. Now, a lot of people complained about this bit. The thing about it is that it's been 30 years, right? And she's human. It's not like Bill Murray is, a sexy, kind of guy. It's just the fact that he's a guy who probably was like, hey. And she was like, forget, hey. I mean, I actually think she probably had sex with Kang as well, and everything. And but Bill is like, the way he plays it is really funny, and stuff like, yeah, we were like into some things. Hey, what are you, Hank? I heard about you, da da da. And it's like, yeah, I haven't heard about you. It's like, why would you? She didn't have a chance. But then also too is he was supposed to be a rebel, but then it turns out that he wasn't. That he, rats them out. So Kang's forces comes for them. And she's like, "How could you do this to me?" Like, what do you want? I'm a survivor, So anyway, there's a big fight and attack. They take the ship, and the ship has that kind of like organic way of driving and stuff. Hank has to put his hands in there and everything, and so they escape. So people are like saying, did Bill Murray die or not? I mean, I don't think it really much matters, but I think as a saving grace, I wouldn't have killed him off either, just for the slim chance that you can go back. So anyway, so they escape. So now, back to Ant-Man and Cassie. So they're with the rebels, and they know that they hear this guy and everything, that they're all fighting and stuff. What happens is that he comes to them as well. So basically, jumping around here, let's just put it this way, that Kang has now captured Ant-Man and Cassie and everything. So he's got them in a jail cell. Now, in all the pundits, nobody talks about this scene. And this, to me, was like the best scene ever, right? But it was also the confusing scene because the script was changed. The ending was changed, and this scene was changed. Because in the trailers, this is the scene in the trailer where Ant-Man wants to make, Kang wants to make a deal with Ant-Man where he says, I could give you time. I can give you time back. Because you've missed the time of your daughter growing up, those 5 years, I can give them back to you. And this is where, because with all Ant-Man films, it's always about a heist. And it's generally usually like it's a time heist, but it's always about a heist, right? So Ant-Man is like, what you want me to steal? And but because that was all they gave us in the trailer, they didn't give us anything about a rebellion, they didn't give us anything about this, that, the other thing. All they played on that this scene, which they changed and taken out of the actual movie, because even though Kang did want to make a deal with Ant-Man, his deal was different. He's like, I want you to steal this generator from me because I can't seem to get it. Because what had happened was when he had fought Janet, and when him and Janet built his ship again, fixed it, it had a neural link, and Janet touched it. And when she touched the neural link, she tapped into his mind. And when she tapped into his mind, she saw his past as a conqueror, destroying worlds and universes in time. And so, it was like she's seen enough. And he saw the reaction on her face and realized, oh, wait a minute, hold on, this is a Neuralink. What did you see? And she's like, I saw you as a monster. He's like, oh, no, damn. Because he was trying to pretend to be a good guy. So, like, in that aspect, so when they had to fight and stuff like that, she had taken her particles and, shrank the machine to the point where he couldn't get it. So that's what it was, is that, like, he was trapped even more. So he needed someone who could shrink or have pin particles to be able to get his machine back, and so that's what he wanted from Ant-Man and everything. So realizing that there was another person that had these abilities, this is what he wanted to take from Ant-Man. So instead of saying, I can give you time with your daughter, right? He's like, either get me my device or I will kill your daughter. Now, it was pretty violent and vicious. And I can understand why you wouldn't have that in the trailer, right? But to give us a false scene really pissed people off. And I can understand that. I can understand that would upset people. Like, you set me down the wrong road with your trailer. And trailer's not supposed to misdirect you that much. So this is what I think is one of the things that led to people being really upset about this film. And that's understandable, but still enjoy the film for what it is, because this new direction was really more powerful, because he was like, I can either, crush you, or I could crush her. And he was like, attacking both sides. So when Scott said, no, I'm not going to do it for you, then he had like Cassie where he was crushing her and everything. And so easily that like, Scott was like, no, stop, I'll do it. And then so when he pulls Scott out, then Scott goes, don't you ever touch her again. I mean, a great father move, and it's like, it was deep. It was a great scene. And so like he committed that he was going to go after this, orb, this MacGuffin. Now, to go after the MacGuffin, he had to go through what was called a probability storm. And this was, again, the second best thing in the film. So now Scott goes down, shrinks down, and he enters the probability storm, which means that he begins to multiply. So first he starts out as 2, then 4, then 5, then, even his version of his Baskin-Robbins self shows up. So we get a multitude of Scotts, like a multitude of ants. Brilliant. I just thought that was just brilliant. Like that scene where we see in the trailer where it's like they're all like rising up, and we thought it was ants, but it was actually Scotts. So, I mean, like, that was just, I thought, pure genius. Because then you had Scott playing like about 100 to 1,000 versions of himself and everything. And he was overwhelmed by himself as well, because it's like, they couldn't decide. Because mostly he was full of fear, But then what had happened was that he decided to concentrate on Cassie, because Cassie was shouting out at him, Daddy, it's the same way like in the first film. where he heard her voice when he was shrinking and shrinking through the microverse. So when he decided to concentrate on her, he allowed the other probabilities of himself to concentrate on her. And they were like, this is for Cassie. And so, like, they could all agree that Cassie was the most important thing to them, and they could work together. And that's how he become the top of the apex and destroy and to break out the orb. So he was able to get to the top of the Ant-Man mountain, and again also too is that Hope was able to hear him as well and everything, and like she was also able to come in and support him, and even in her own probability storm of focusing on him and stuff like that, and he was able to shrink down the orb and get the orb. Teamwork, fantastic, So now they got the orb. They don't want to really give it to Kang and stuff like that. But then this is where they realize that Cassie has a suit and stuff. So it's like, Cassie, you have a suit? Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I have a suit and everything. So Cassie got a suit, and so it's the three of them now up against Kang. Let's see. So just going back to Hank and Janet for a second. When they talk about the fact that she has needs and it's been 30 years, Hank says, well, I met people too. She said, oh, have you? He said, well, I was talking to somebody, but it didn't really go anywhere. You know what I mean? So he didn't really, do anything. But it was just the fact that they both thought they wouldn't be with each other again. So whatever you do, you do and stuff. That was like the main thing about that conversation, which I thought again was an intelligent way of looking at it. You don't have to do this whole kind of thing about like, oh, we're virgins, or we don't, have sex, or we don't have needs. They're real people. So that was good. Anyway, so now Kang is like, Kang confronts them, and he's like, who are you, Ant-Man? You're just a guy who talks to ants. You can't, I'm a conqueror, right? And then so Ant-Man is like, but we're gonna stop you and everything. Now this is where I thought was really cool, because like we see Kang under his helmet, he's able to, he has the blue face, he has the stripes down his face, which is scars. They do it as scars. But I thought that was a very intelligent way of makeup and utilizing the look that he had in the comics. That was really good. I thought that was like amazing. He does have the time powers and everything. So people were saying like, how come he can't just take out Ant-Man? I don't understand why he's fighting them and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it is cockiness. A lot of it is like he thinks he's like, Ant-Man is an ant. You're beneath me. You talk to ants. And like, what could you possibly do to me? So basically I'm just all about swatting you. I'm not about like, like destroying you and like concentrating on it. I'm just about swatting you away. Give me my globe. So, now what happened was when they got zapped into the subatomica in the beginning, again, if you blink, you missed it, some ants got sucked in too. So what had happened is that because the ants weren't the concentration of the beam that pulled them down, they went down like kind of like a different route. So they ended up in subatomica, and they ended up going through a time dilation where they were there for thousands and thousands of years. And so they were able to build, as ants do, they build colonies. So they were able to build a technological colony. So these became super ants, and they were communicating with Hank all this time. So Hank kept like touching his ear, going, what's going on? You know? And we didn't find out until, like the third act, when Hank shows up with his army of ants, that, that's what had happened. And that was really cool because it gave Michael Douglas his Ant-Man moment and stuff like that, And so when the ants attacked Kang, and people were like, how could Kang, the Conqueror, be killed by ants or stopped by ants? Because he wasn't really killed by them. It's because he just thought that they were beneath him. It was a concept of like overestimating your enemy. And I mean, or watch out for the little guy. The little guy will take you out, bro. The meek shall inherit the earth. And I mean, if you look at it from that way, you think that's pure genius. Again, great writing, and stuff. So, bringing us down to the end of the film, Ant-Man, as well as Cassie. I mean, Cassie starts a revolution. That really wasn't really that much necessary. But Ant-Man is looking for his daughter, and he grows a giant man in the subatomic universe. So he's a huge skyscraper giant man, and he's like, gang, I'm coming for you, and as a giant, people were saying, how come he wasn't hurt by the laser blast? And it's because his skin becomes super dense as he grows. That's why. So in that fashion, is that like lasers, rockets, bullets, doesn't hurt him. So like he's like, like coming for Cassie, Cassie coming to reunite with him, and then she decides to do something because she's always shrinking. So she decides to do something for the first time, and she grows into stature. So she's like, look, Daddy, I'm a giant dude. Like, oh my God, And they reunited. That was kind of funny, and cool and stuff. So they're reunited, and everything. And Kang is taken out. He goes to the machine, and so is he dead? Obviously, no, I don't think so. But, that's the whole thing, right, with that. Now, because what happens is when Scott is fighting Ant-Man, when Scott is fighting Kang, in that really fight sequence where Kang's like, I'm going to take you out. And Scott goes, no, when Ant-Man goes, oh no, Kang goes, you're going to lose. And then Scott goes, I don't have, no, okay. Kang goes, you can't win. And then Scott goes, I don't have to win. We just both have to lose. Great freaking line and stuff like that. Then it came down to the fact that that's how, Kang, gets absorbed into the machine and everything else like that. So they're trapped because Hope comes for Scott because, the parents go through the wormhole. Cassie go through the wormhole. They're like, where's Scott? He's fighting off with Kane, make sure that he doesn't get through. He's like, you're not getting out. I can't let you out. And everything else like that. And then Hope comes in, again, like with the probability storm, right, to help him. So they look like they're going to be trapped here, in Subatomica. And that could have been one of the endings, that they're trapped and stuff like that. How would that ending have been? It would be kind of like the ending of the other one, where it's like a cliffhanger. But because it's a trilogy, I'm pretty sure that Pete Reed was like, look, we definitely get a trilogy. We don't know we get a fourth film. We can always feel that in Kang Dynasty, we could follow up with Hank and Hope and stuff like that. But they decided to change the ending, and Cassie, who mentioned it earlier, that I wish I could have found you before, because I made this machine, to seek you out. So obviously now she knew how to find him, and that's how she found him, and that's how she was able to pull them both out. So that's what she had done. So people say, yeah, that's pretty damn convenient, but that's what it is. The script sets it up, and then you knock it down. So it's done. So so then we get like a spool ending where it ends where it begins, where Scott's walking down the street again. Now this was really interesting, and Eric Ross did this on New Rockstars, so shout out to him on this. I'm like, oh shoot, and how come nobody's talking about this? When Scott walks down the street this time, the people that are around him are all looking at him like he doesn't belong there. There are symbols on the wall. There's people that are repeating like as if it's like a loop. Like there's a couple like wearing green. There's women wearing purple, which are the colors of Kang, and everything else like that. And Scott starts to think, wait a minute, hold on for a second. He has the mind kind of F, where he's like, Kang wasn't supposed to lose. He said if he loses, then we all lose, and the world is destroyed. It's nice and stuff. What if I did wrong and I destroyed the universe and stuff? Nah, probably not. So he thinks about it. He drops that dime on us, and that's our cliffhanger. It's like, what if that wasn't supposed to happen? And then they go to the restaurant and everything's Cassie's on birthday and stuff like that. And he thinks about it again. I don't know. I'm still thinking that maybe I wasn't supposed to. And they end the film on that. So I think it doesn't have to be Ant-Man 4. I just think it's more of Kang Dynasty. I think it's more of like the fact that you did let Kang out, and now we're going to get the Kang Dynasty. Because with the end credit sequence, we get the Council of Kangs, which is fantastic, because now we get Immortus the way Immortus looks. Now, the thing about it is, He Who Remains was supposed to be Immortus, right? But there was a version of Immortus. So this was the comic book version of the bearded Immortus. And we get Ramatut. Again, Jonathan Majors looking awesome. But what was strange was the glowing blue guy, version of Kang, was supposed to be the Scarlet Centurion. Now, why didn't they make him red instead of blue? I just don't know. So it took me a minute, and I needed to be told that was Scarlet Centurion. But then we see the Council of Kangs who were in an arena, who were like freaking out. But they're freaking out kind of like as if they were in War of the Planet of the Apes. You know what I mean? And I'm like, why did they choose that route? I mean, obviously, the Kangs just can't agree with one another, and they're just like very vicious, angry, and all of that kind of stuff. So mainly, I think that's what they were just trying to showcase. So, what's the next version of Kang that we're going to get? So then we get the second end credit sequence, which leads us into Loki season 2, where they show us Loki and Morpheus, and Morpheus is like, so who is this guy? What are you worried about? And they see Victor Timely on a stage. And if anybody knows anything, Timely Comics was what Marvel Comics initially started out as, Timely Comics. So it was the beginning of Marvel, created by Victor Timely. So it's kind of like Kang creates Marvel in a way, which is a nice little touch and everything. And again, it's kind of like showing us, Oh, so this is what Kang ended up in. He ended up from the end to the beginning and everything, and then you cut off. So it's like going back to the dawn of time. So that's Quantumania, man. I'm hoping that I've actually hit the high points that other people haven't hit. I'm hoping that you found this interesting. I'm sorry it's coming straight off my brain or whatever and stuff like that, but I do believe I caught everything. I'm going to see this movie again. But please, all I'm just trying to say is a movie is a movie. I can't stand it when people complain about special effects because, like, it's not real. So they spent the whole movie in the quantum realm. So the whole movie had to be shot in a volume. It had to be. It couldn't be shot in any other real world to make it look like the volume. When you complain about the special effects, unless it's really, really bad, that's one thing. But mainly, you can't just complain like, oh yeah, the effects are kind of shoddy. It's like, dude, it's a freaking movie. Just leave it alone and stuff. So when you say, oh, but no, a lot of the effects was good, then you're like, well, then that's what it's supposed to be. A lot of the effects were good. You had some great drama, great script writing. Changing up the writers is definitely a good thing. So I'll be excited to see what Jeff Loveless writes for the next one and everything. So until the next time, this has been a rant and everything on Antman Quantumania. I enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you.